In the 1950s, the late 1950s, I joined the MG Car Club, and there was no real interest in the older MGs. At the time, I had an F-Type Magna, and there seemed to be no outlet for my level of enthusiasm. But there were a number of us who were running these old cars, and so by writing to the club magazine of the time, we elicited a certain amount of enthusiasm, and got together with a number of us and formed this register. It was done in 1961. We originally thought we would probably find about 100 owners of these old cars, and that was projected over about 4 or 5 years, and we achieved the 100 within 3 months, and by the end of the year we had over 200, and we thought we'd really done something. We now have something in excess of 2,000 members spread all over the world, and we never cease to be amazed at the increasing enthusiasm for these old MGs.
You were talking about how the parts are interchangeable between these range of cars.
Oh yes, the 6-cylinder and 4-cylinder cars of a period will have many parts which are interchangeable. Obviously the transmission and the heavier components one would find different from the small between the small cars and the larger cars. But for instance, a P-type midget will have exactly the same connecting rods and valves, cam followers and all that sort of thing, to the N-type. So the parts will be completely interchangeable, made for cheaper production. When one is talking about MGs, one must always remember that they were a comparatively cheap car. The P-type sold for 222 and the N-type for 310. Which, although it was a fairish amount of money in those days, should be related against, let's say, a Morris Minor of the period, which would have sold for about £95.
How did you happen to begin work at the MG Works?
Oh boy. I was at the factory one day in relation to the Triple M register business on the car club side, and I happened to just mention that I was looking for a job. And about 5 days later, John Thornley rang me from the factory and said, "I understand you're looking for a job, are you serious?" And I said, "Why, yes. Have you got anything to offer?" And he said, "Well, it's quite possible, come and talk to us." And that's where it really started from.
And what did you do there?
Well, I started off on the inspection team. After a brief period, my original assignment wasn't really told to me before I went there. It was a most odd sort of arrangement. But I went there more or less as a friend of the company, and after about 6 months they then told me that my job was to form the Air Pollution Control Centre, in which we tested all the cars that eventually ended up in the States when we were being nadarized. I guess according to British tradition, I made such a mess of the job that they promoted me, and I then became Chief Quality Engineer.
And you worked there till what year?
I left MGs in 1975, and I ceased my association with the company in 1977. I was promoted out of MGs into a central administration job, and I resigned from that in 1977. I beg your pardon.
What would you say the appeal of the MG is? What is that's so attractive about it to people?
Well, it's partly the cars. The cars are nice. They're nice to look at. They're comparatively easy to drive. They're fairly economical to drive. The spares for them is very cheap. But I think by far and away the most important thing is that it's such a nice way of meeting people. Where else could I meet somebody like you?